final step that we need to perform in preparation for the texturing stage over in Substance Painter is a hardcore analysis of the hardness and softness of all of the edge segments on the model itself. If we take a look at the model here, you can very quickly and easily see some of the challenges that we're having to overcome. As we start to analyze how the surface shading engine is looking at all these polygons, we're seeing some real weird funkiness. You see that big line there? And then also we can very visibly see the center line of my mesh. These edges are not allowing the surface shading engine to smooth over those polygons. It's treating each polygon as an independent polygon, and it's not understanding that there's a connection there, and it's not smoothing across. We want to fix that. We want to ask the surface shading engine to smooth across those edges to make a nice smooth shape, and we see it on the back here as well. There's a two-step process that we need to do. First and foremost, we need to adjust the normals, and we need to reset the orientation of the surface normals to the polygons themselves, to the current orientation of the polygons. The normals can get out of whack every once in a while, and this is usually because of a modeling operation. Sometimes tweaking and using the retopologizing tools will, just kind of create incorrect surface normals. We want to fix this before we go any further. The surface normal determines how the shading engine understands the current orientation of that surface inside of the three-dimensional scene. If that surface normal is wrong or is off, misaligned from the orientation of the polygon, this is what we get. We get these really weird artifacts, these shading artifacts that show up in the mesh itself. So the first thing that we need to do is go in and ask the computer to reset all of our surface normals and conform them back to the current orientation of the polygons that are associated with. Let's go into my polygonal selection set, just double clicky here. And in the Mesh Display pull-down menu, I'm going to click on this dotted line at the top of the menu to tear off the menu into a floating palette and just dock it over here. We're going to be using this palette a couple times. It's nice just to have access to it. Okay, so just visualization here. This is what it looks like before, and I think the underside of the neck is such a great example. We see some very hard edges. The surface shading engine is stopping when it gets to this area, and it's not smoothing out how the light is going between all the different polygons. Let's fix that. Double click on all the polygons, and then inside of the Mesh Display pull-down menu, what we're going to choose is under the Normal section, Set to Face. This is going to look at the orientation of each individual face and pop the normal to match that orientation. Now it's going to look kind of funky because now it's not shading across all the different polygons. It's shading each polygon individually, independently from the next. That's step one. Step two to solve our problem is to once again select all the geometry, and now we want to soften them. We're going to ask the computer to shade across all these polygons as if they're all one connected polygon. Let's do it real fast. We'll soften the polygons, and now look what we get. It's just beautiful. We're starting to get that nice smooth reproduction of the form that we're expecting to see. All those problems that we were seeing on the top have been resolved. We're not seeing that odd center line go down the middle of the bear, and everything is looking nice and smooth and soft. However, at times we want to have the surface shading engine stop its evaluation when it hits certain features in the model itself. The orbit of the eye is a really great example. If we zoom out here and take a look, we're losing a lot of definition as to where the eyebrow ends and the orbit of the eye begins. We can define that real easily just by going in and creating a hard edge, which is going to stop the smoothing algorithm once it hits that edge, and it's going to kind of create a group, if you will, on the inside of the eye. Let's first start off with a selection. I'm going to go into edge mode here, and I'm just going to double click on this loop. Let's do this outside one. I'm going to double click on that guy. And then I'm going to return to that Mesh Display pull-down menu that we were looking at before. And specifically, we're going to choose Harden Edge now. If we were to drop this selection, you may have already seen it pop. Yeah, but now we can start to see how the smoothing engine is stopping the shading from going across that boundary line. And that's a pretty neat little illusion. What if we were to do it one more? I think I did the wrong one. Let's do this one. Let's do Harden Edge. Yeah, that's what I was after. And if we were to deselect the geometry, now we can really start to see the orbit of the eye. If we wanted to fix this mistake that I made earlier, we can just simply go back in, double click on that edge loop that we accidentally tagged, and choose Soften Edge, and now that problem has been resolved. And there we go. pretty neat. So the hard and soft edge tag is going to help the smoothing engine determine how it's going to have the light transition across all of these polygons. An important critical step before we send our model over into Substance Painter. Substance Painter is going to be looking at these hard and soft edges to determine how its rendering engine is going to interpret the smoothing of our geometry. Having it set up, ready to rock and roll before we export our model for texturing is absolutely the best way forward.